up on this program, Expanding Your Horizons, a women's conference in science and math. Also, early detection of pregnancy in horses using ultrasound. And controlled breeding in sheep. As well, another livestock story, the high tech of embryo transfers and what it means. These stories coming up on A Fine Science with Holly Preston.
In the spring of 1986, a conference called Expanding Your Horizons was held at the University of Saskatchewan. The focus was increasing women's presence in the areas of science and technology. Besides the many lecture sessions, elementary and high school students from around the province took part in 26 hands-on workshops. Each workshop was designed with a practical approach, such as Coke is it, or is it, directed by microbiologist Carol Ann Magnus.
And what you do is you take it like this and you read it, and you can see that it's graduated, that there's numbers. So if you put it down, you find that there's probably less than 1% sugar. We had approximately 14 girls come in, ranging from high school grades 6 to 12, and they seemed to be quite interested in our program. We had the program divided up into 3 sections, chemical, microbiological, and then sensory evaluation. And the girls just rotated in the hour and a half, and we tried to provide them with as many hands-on activities as possible so they would have a good idea of what actually goes on in a research community. I think what has to get done is they have to be shown what can be, how they can use their knowledge afterwards. Like, it's really simple to say, oh, you need this chemistry course, but they have no idea what chemistry can be used for once you get out of high school or out of university. And sessions like this show them that, well, they're actually very applicable to whatever function you want to apply them to, whether it be any type of analysis, whether it be food industry or whether it be the medical industry or anything like that. Okay, and this started at 760, which is the top of the red scale, and it moved all the way down to less than 400, which would be the bottom of the purple. And any scientific field is open. I mean, the potential is endless, and it's what particular field that you yourself are interested in, and what you make of it for yourself. But I think you need the initial push to be shown where the fields are and where your interests actually lie. I really enjoy food microbiology. I've got a degree in microbiology, and then I've worked for 7 years, and I'm just going back into school full-time now. So I can see where a further degree is going to get me, and I wouldn't go out of this field. It's really quite exciting. There's a lot of new developments that are happening, and I just wouldn't change.
You don't want any wires to accidentally touch the circuit and provide, say, a path to ground. Let's say if you had left this lying here. All of a sudden you connected a negative supply to ground, you'd get a very large current flowing through here, and it would toast the wire.
Another class at the seminar involved an electrical workshop. Marilyn McGuire-Buller was in charge of the instruction.
They got right in there, where they weren't scared to connect wires or flip switches, although we didn't let them turn knobs. And they all really enjoyed it. They had a lot of questions afterwards and wanted to know more about the basics of electricity. Mathematics is not something you learn just to get out of high school. Mathematics has real applications. A teacher is a teacher, and they are there to provide the instructional learning through their elementary and high school years. But a teacher can't be a role model to encourage someone into engineering or to encourage someone into biology or medicine. They need to actually meet the people that have done it.
And Claudette Mackay-Lasson has indeed done it. She's a chemical engineer, a nuclear engineer, has a master's in business administration, and is currently president of the Ontario Engineers Association.
The course that I hated most than anything else was mechanical, the statics and dynamics. And when I finished and graduated, I said, well, this is it. I'll never see those subjects again. Was I ever wrong? First assignment I had on the job was a mechanical problems. So I learned very quickly. The message that I want to leave is to young women is, please do not drop your maths and sciences, chemistry and physics until you're very sure of what you want. We were 8 women when I graduated on a class of 318, and that was the largest graduating class in those years in North America. So it's to tell you how the situation was.
She has 3 basic recommendations for young women in early high school.
One of them is if you go into engineering and if you face any problem, is that don't overlook the difficulties at first. Stick to it. Go for it and give it your best. It's very important. The other thing is try to find a role model, somebody that you will look up to. It's a lot easier if you choose a woman as a role model, because you can see how she's dealt with different problems. If you are concerned about family, you will see how is her family life, and it will inspire you. I had a role model. It was Mary Curie when I started, and I read every book on her. I didn't have the chance to meet her or talk to her, but I was very impressed by her. And I met other women later on in my career who I look up to and try to emulate and do similar things. And the third thing is, I think that when you go through some rough period, it's important to all the time have a sense of humor and make sure that you are having fun. It's so much more enjoyable to go through life and like what you're doing and having fun and develop a sense of humor. It's very important.
ID, module, belt, phaser, and helmet.
Introducing the ultimate laser game on planet Earth, Photon. The laser battle is on. Finally, you'll know if he's hit electronically.
Gotcha.
The one, the only Photon.
Gotcha.
Disrupted. Battle set shown here, and Warrior set each sold separately. Batteries not included. Photon. It's a grand toy.
Do you have a favorite dog? They come in all shapes, all sizes, all colors. They play, they fight, they dig, they bite. And this Christmas, they sing and dance and give you their love.
Down goes.
An all-time animated favorite is back on the big screen. Walt Disney's classic, Lady and the Tramp.
Now playing at a famous Players Theater near you.
Santa Claus, shouldn't you be making your rounds by now?
That's just it. I haven't much time, and Mrs. Claus desperately needs her pictures done by the time I go home. Can you do them for me?
Sure, Santa.
Oh, good. I'll be back in an hour. These prints are lovely. Mrs. Claus will be so pleased. I still have so much to do. Merry Christmas!
Get all of your holiday photos done quickly at 50-Minute Photo. Now with 2 locations to serve you.
Swiss Jewelers traditionally means dependability, personalized service, and a choice of quality merchandise. We're breaking with tradition and holding our first sale in 25 years. Our diamond engagement rings have been reduced by 50%. All of our gold jewelry, including chains, bracelets, and earrings, are marked down by 50%. Save 40% on all Bulova watches or 50% on Telstar watches. Our large selection of giftware has also been reduced. This is the sale worth waiting for. Swiss Jewelers on the Scar Street Mall.
Ultrasound equipment has been in our hospitals for quite some time now. It's usually used to examine expectant mothers and their babies. The technique has also found its way into veterinary medicine, where it's used for early pregnancy diagnosis in mares.
Should be 17 days pregnant, and she is pregnant. There's also some cysts in the uterus. They show up as black fluid there. Ultrasound is most valuable wherever the economics of raising horses is important. Either race horses, it's most commonly used in thoroughbreds and standardbreds, and also in purebred horses, Arabs, quarter horses, where it is most economical if the mare has a foal every year. If you want a mare to have a foal every year, it is important that the mare can be preg checked early enough to determine that she is in foal, or else do something about getting her into foal for that season. This is a rubber encased probe so that no damage can come to the mare. Ultrasound works by producing sound waves at a higher frequency that we can hear. They are emitted from this flat surface of the probe. You can see it's kind of an oblong shape. The sound waves are emitted here. So I direct the ultrasound probe so that the flat surface is aimed towards the uterus, through the wall of the rectum towards the uterus. The sound waves are reflected off the different tissues at a different rate, and that's why we see different densities of gray on the screen that show up the picture. fluid absorbs the sound waves, and therefore none of them are reflected, and we see a black area on the screen whenever there is fluid. And because the foal is surrounded by fluid in a pregnancy in a mare, we are able to pick out the pregnancy very easily.
The probe is inserted into the rectum and placed next to the uterus.
Okay, we're looking at a cross-section of the uterine horn. So we're cutting through it transversely, and I'm just following it down. That's a gray area near the top of the screen. Any black represents fluid. So this black circle represents a pregnancy. And all we see at this stage, 17 days, is the fluid that surrounds the foal, the developing fetus. You can't actually see the fetus within the circle of fluid. So that's it there. In the mare that is further along in her pregnancy, the area of fluid or black area that surrounds the foal is much bigger as it grows as the foal is developing. Once they're past about 21 days or 3 weeks of pregnancy, we can see the foal. It starts out as a little white line in the bottom of the fluid area. This mare is approximately 34 days pregnant, and the foal shows up as this white area inside the black. So the foal is represented right there in this picture. As the foal grows, the weight of it takes it closer to the bottom of the black area, which represents the fluid. One of the main advantages of ultrasound is much earlier pregnancy detection. With ultrasound, we can determine pregnancy with about 99% accuracy at 14 days after the last breeding date. This is much earlier than other methods. Previously, the most common method was whether or not the mare came back in heat. They cycle about every 21 days, so if they're bred on one cycle and they don't come back in heat in 3 weeks, that was sort of circumstantial evidence that they were in foal. The other main advantage is that we can detect twins very early after breeding. They are very difficult to determine by other methods of pregnancy detection and cannot be determined either so early or so accurately. If twins are found early enough in the pregnancy, they can be eliminated and the mare can be rebred without any loss of time. Mares that conceive with twin pregnancies generally do not carry them to term, like to the normal time when they would foal. Twins are usually aborted towards the end of the pregnancy, or they are born dead, or one of them is mummified. It actually dries up within the uterus and becomes shrunk and shriveled, and the other one may be born, but it will probably be also born early and die shortly after birth, or be born very weak and not develop normally. People just love to have pictures of pregnancy in horses. If you explain it to them, they can show it to all their friends, and it becomes very important to the owner of the mare.
The University of Saskatchewan has always been in the forefront of developments that affect the livestock industry. A program dealing with reproduction in sheep is now in its 3rd year. The program is trying to increase the number of lambs born to each ewe and to spread those births evenly across the year, not just in the spring. The result would be a steady supply of lamb for the dinner table and less dependency on imported meat. The first thing that has to be done is to convince the ewe that she should have a lamb.
One of the methods used to bring ewes to a breeding condition is hormonal treatment. It also increases fertility. Dr. Norman Rawlings discusses some of the additional programs.
We found that with a lot of our prairie breeds that the ovulation rate or the fertility is fairly low. As I say, they usually want to produce in the region of 1 or 2 lambs a year. But there are some more prolific breeds around in the world, and we brought one of these breeds in, and that is the Finnish landrace, the whiteface rams. And we use these to produce a crossbred ewe. And what we have in our flock are Finnish rams crossed onto a Columbia, Rambouillet, or a Suffolk type ewe. And the advantage of the Finnish landrace is they're a very prolific breed. They produce more like litters rather than single or twin lambs. And we find that introducing their blood or their genetics into the Suffolk or the Rambouillet or the Columbia significantly increases the ovulation rate and the size of the litter that we get at lambing time.
Another technique to try to increase lamb production involves putting the ewes into areas where lighting is controlled. By altering the length of artificial daylight, breeders simulate the short days of fall, the natural breeding season for sheep.
But after breeding, we wait about 20 days, and then we take a blood test from the ewe. And by looking at her hormonal profile at this time, we can tell whether she's pregnant or not fairly successfully. And then we wait till she's about 90 days pregnant, or till we suspect she's about 90 days pregnant. We take another blood sample, and again, based on the hormone profile then, we can tell whether the ewe is pregnant or not. And we can even get a fairly good idea then as to whether she's carrying a single, a twin, or a triplet pregnancy. And by knowing whether our ewes are pregnant at 20 days of pregnancy and 90 days of pregnancy allows us to take non-pregnant ewes and move them into another breeding group so that they don't wait an extended period of time to be rebred. Now, most of the lamb that we consume in Canada unfortunately comes in from abroad, but there certainly is the capability for us to increase our lamb output in Canada. And one of the major problems is, or are, problems with marketing. And one of the major problems with marketing is the seasonality of supply. And so we sort of have a chicken and egg type situation here. It's no good increasing production of the ewes if all your lambs are just coming at one time in the year. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to demonstrate to the farmer how he can increase production, increase output, but also how he can spread that output across the year so that he has more lambs to sell, so that we can meet the demand in Canada, and so that as we promote our markets, we can guarantee a constant flow of lamb across the year to meet that demand. We've had this actual program here running for 3 or 4 years now, and we have actually been able to do some evaluation on it. We've not done a lot of economic evaluation on it yet. We're sort of in the throes of doing that now. And at the moment, we're actually looking around for producers to cooperate with, because we want to try and transfer some of these ideas onto producers' farms. But we can say that our intensification program has increased the output of lamb by 30 or 40%. And we have been able to spread the lamb supply across the year. And certainly by incorporating these prolific Finn breeds into our local Saskatchewan breeds, we have been able to boost the output of lamb quite successfully. For instance, with our Finn Columbia cross ewes, we've got them to the point now where, again, on the basis of, say, 100 ewe flock, in just a 1-year period, we have got them up to the point of producing in the order of 280 lambs over a 1-year period in our intensification program. And that of course, is a phenomenal increase in productivity compared to the once-a-year lambing with our local non-prolific breeds.
That's Entertainment has put the spotlight on Panasonic TVs featuring state-of-the-art Quintrix 2 CompuFocus Picture Tube, the ultimate in viewing pleasure. Panasonic at special low prices from That's Entertainment in the Northgate Mall.
Which night is your favorite at Granny's? Monday, pizza. Tuesday, chicken and ribs. Wednesday, steak and shrimp. Thursday, barbecue chicken. Friday, from the sea. Saturday, New York steak. Sunday, veal cordon bleu. Which night is my favorite at Granny's? All of them.
Party time with the Rovers. Join in. My hands are like a football. Well, I think I'm gonna die.
Come on and join the fun with everybody's favorite, the Rovers.
Wasn't that a party?
Canada's #1 party band, the Rovers, uncorks their newest Party in a Package. 20 of the most requested party starters in Rovers history on 2 great new albums.
Bottle of wine, fruit a little bite. When you gonna let me get?
The Rovers are throwing the biggest party in Canada, and you're all invited. For a hand-clapping, foot-stomping good time, it's the Rovers Party Pack, and it's available only through this special television promotion. So get pencil and paper ready, and we'll tell you how you can join the fun.
And there was green alligators and long-necked geese.
This may be your only chance to join the party, so stand by to order the Rovers Party Pack. 20 all-time party favorites on 2 LPs or cassette tape. More fun and games from CBS Direct. Visa, MasterCard, or COD orders, call Regina at 757-8424 or save the COD charges. Send $12.98 plus $2 postage and handling to the Rovers, Box 663, Regina. Call now. Operators are standing by. But remember, this offer could end without notice. So call 757-8424 now or send $12.98 plus $2 postage and handling to the Rovers, Box 663, Regina, Saskatchewan.
Embryo transfer is a technique by which embryos, or the young of animals at the earliest stage of growth, are collected from one animal and transferred to another. The second animal will give birth to the young. The practice is widespread with cattle. The donor animal that produces the embryos and the bull to which she was mated are usually of high genetic merit and consequently very valuable. The young will have the same genetic traits and the same value. The first step is to superovulate the cow, which means inducing her to produce many more eggs than she would normally produce.
In order to superovulate a cow or induce her to produce more eggs than she would normally do, we have to inject her with hormones called gonadotropins. Also, we have found that cows respond differently depending on the stage of their cycle and the stage of activity of the ovaries. So we have to start a cow on treatment with these hormones at a very specific stage in her estrus cycle. We normally treat with hormones for about 5 days. The cow will then come into heat. We usually breed her with artificial insemination using 2 or 3 vials of frozen semen, which is more than we normally use for a single ovulating cow. 7 days later, that is 7 days after she was in heat, we submit the cow for embryo collection. I mentioned this can be done on farm, and most often we do it on farm. It's simply a matter of passing a catheter through the cervix of the donor cow, placing it in one uterine horn, and then flushing large volumes of fluid, a fluid of very well-defined ionic base and buffers and so on, so that the eggs will survive in this artificial environment. We flush the fluid in and out, and the eggs are washed then out of the uterus. We use a microscope to find and identify the eggs. We then determine those that are fertilized and unfertilized, those that are fertilized, whether or not they're degenerate and whether or not they're of transferable quality. Then we put them into the same defined medium with very specific nutrients and antibiotics to control bacterial growth and so on, and let the embryos culture while we're getting the recipient animals ready. Now the recipients must have also been treated with hormones so that they come into heat at the same time as the donor animal. They would have only ovulated once, so we use a different hormone combination to accomplish this. But our effort is to get these recipient animals to come into heat at the same time as the donor. We examine them then on the day of embryo collection to ensure that they have ovulated. We will aspirate one embryo at a time into a straw, the same straws as we use for artificial insemination of cattle. We use the very same instrumentation for the non-surgical transfer of embryos as we do for artificial insemination. We pass the pipette through the recipient animal's cervix into the uterine horn on the side in which she had ovulated previously, place the embryo there. Now, there is still some work being done with surgical embryo transfers in the cow, and basically to accomplish this, it's just a matter of making an incision in the flank of the cow under local anesthetic. Again, it can be done on farm. We exteriorize the tip of the uterine horn, just puncture a hole in the wall of the uterine horn, pass a catheter through this hole, deposit the embryo in the lumen of the uterus, and then it's simply a matter of suturing up the skin wound.
Dr. Mappletoft and his contemporaries see many advantages to the technique.
When we combine artificial insemination and embryo transfer, we really can make quite a great deal of genetic gain. And this really brings me into the other main application of embryo transfer as we see it in animal breeding, and that is planned matings. Basically what people do is take the best cows that they can lay their hands on and take the most highly proven bulls that they can lay their hands on, and they produce offspring from them using embryo transfer. If we talk about averages, normally, of course, a cow produces 1 egg each time she comes into heat. And of course, most of the time they produce 1 calf per year, occasionally twins. Using hormones to stimulate the ovaries to ovulate a number of times, we call this superovulation. We can usually, on the average, cause the cow to ovulate about 10 times. Normally, 5 or 6 good transferable embryos result from such a superovulation. If we transfer those 5 or 6 eggs, we'll get somewhere between 3 and 4 pregnancies. Now, it's possible to do this to a cow every 2 months. Well, on that basis then, 6 times per year, 3 to 4 pregnancies, we're talking about 20 to 30 offspring per year. Now, there are cows that are exceptional, and we've seen some cows, for example, that will produce 30 or 40, very exceptionally, 30 or 40 good eggs on each collection. Well, you can imagine if we transferred those eggs and got around a 60% pregnancy rate, we could be talking in excess of 100 offspring per year.
The first commercial cattle operation began in Calgary in 1972. Since that time, tens of thousands of offspring have been produced in Canada by the technique of embryo transfer. It's commonplace now to ship the embryos all over the world, a tremendous saving compared to the cost of shipping live animals. The sciences associated with embryo transfer and genetic engineering in general are advancing at a startling rate, but not without some opposition. Concerns about moral issues and manipulating nature will always have to be considered and addressed by the scientific community. And that's our program. I'm Holly Preston. Thank you for watching A Fine Science.
This is CBC Television.